2021 International Relations Helping Sri Lanka. Context: India has assisted with nearly $4 billion Sri Lanka. The Sri Lanka economic crisis is an ongoing crisis in the island state of Sri Lanka that started in 2019. It is the country's worst economic crisis since its independence in 1948. What led to the economic crisis? The government blamed the COVID pandemic, which badly affected Sri Lanka's tourist trade, one of its biggest foreign currency earners. It also says tourists were frightened off by a series of deadly bomb attacks in 2019. However, many experts blame the previous government's poor economic mismanagement for the crisis. How can India help? Provide liberal loans, sharing technical expertise or knowledge, helping the country upgrade skills in different areas of economic activity. Engagement areas, agriculture and allied activities. India can help Sri Lanka develop its dairy sector. Sri Lanka imports a considerable quantity of milk powder from India and annually imports dairy products worth $315 million. Poultry sector. India can share its knowledge on the productivity of wheat, which is largely used as the primary ingredient in domestic poultry feed. Energy projects. Provisional approvals for the Adani Group's wind power projects of over $500 million in the northern province. MSME sector. Programs including the Digital MSME and RAMP, raising and accelerating MSME performance, can provide leads to the MSME sector. School education. India can expand its scheme of establishing smart classrooms and modern computer labs to cover all those institutions teaching children of hill country Tamils, the most underprivileged section in Sri Lanka society. Higher education. Indian universities can consider setting up satellite campuses in Sri Lanka. Training employees of the public sector. A collaborative project can be conceived for training second and third ring employees of the public sector. Culture front. India can arrange for greater numbers of all. Insights on India. Com 35. Buddhist monks to visit religious places. Way forward, engagement. There is enormous scope for India to engage in a constructive way with its southern neighbor, which is known for performing better than most other economies in Asia. Equitable distribution of developmental programs. India can ensure that the proposed development program is equitably distributed in coverage. The northern and eastern provinces, where the Tamil and Muslim ethnic minorities live, should be given special attention as their contribution to Sri Lanka's GDP is hardly 10%. Stability. Politically and economically stable Sri Lanka will be in India's interest too. Insta links. India Sri Lanka relations. Mains link Q. The long sustained image of India as a leader of the oppressed and marginalized nations has disappeared on account of its newfound role in the emerging global order. Elaborate. UPSC 2019. India Bangladesh ties context. On the occasion of Sheikh Hasina's much anticipated visit to India, countries are expected to sign at least one major river agreement. India Bangladesh trade, sixth largest trading partner. Bangladesh is India's sixth largest trade partner, with bilateral trade rising from $2.4 billion in 2009 to $10.8 billion in 2020-21. Industrial raw materials. Bangladesh imports critical industrial raw materials from India on which its exports are reliant. World Bank Working Paper. Bangladesh's exports could rise 182% under a free trade agreement. This could become 300% if combined with trade facilitation measures and reduced transaction costs. Service sectors. Bangladesh also could improve several manufacturing industries by leveraging Indian expertise in service sectors. India and Bangladesh have expanded their partnership to include artificial intelligence, fintech, cybersecurity, startups, connectivity. Projects to boost Eastern India Bangladesh connectivity, economic growth. India's connectivity projects with ASEAN and Bangladesh will open up the region to economic growth. Joining IMT project, Bangladesh's interest in joining the India Myanmar Thailand Highway project. Use of Bangladesh ports. India Bangladesh bilateral waterway trade will get boosted as India can now use the Mingla and Chittagong ports. Use of Indian ports. India is rallying Bangladesh to divert its exports through Indian ports in place of Malaysian or Singaporean ports. Train and bus connectivity. 3 express trains and international bus services operate between India and Bangladesh. Importance of Teesta for India and Bangladesh. India, important for farming. For West Bengal, Teesta is important to sustain its impoverished farming districts, which comprise 12.77% of its population. Bangladesh. Dependence on agriculture. For Bangladesh, the Teesta's floodplains cover about 14% of the total cropped area of the country and provide direct livelihood opportunities to approximately 7.3% of the population. Role of China. Bilateral ties. China has been actively pursuing bilateral ties with Bangladesh. Mega projects. Bangladesh had successfully approached China for a mega project to enhance the Teesta River water flow. Rohingya issue. Bangladesh also requires China's support in resolving the Rohingya refugee crisis. Arms import. Bangladesh is the second biggest arms market for China after Pakistan. Issues. Teesta water sharing. The two have failed to resolve long standing issues such as Teesta water sharing and killings at the border. China factor. Chinese inroads into Bangladesh have been a cause of worry for India. Conclusion. Earn the trust and confidence across the spectrum. The prevailing perception in Bangladesh is that India's goodwill towards the country is aligned to one particular political ideology or school of thought as opposed to Bangladeshi society at large. For India, the challenge is to earn the trust and confidence of Bangladeshis across the spectrum and strata. Interlinks. Teesta River Dispute. Land Boundary Agreement. India-Bangladesh Relations. Mains Link. Q. Project Mausam is considered a unique foreign policy initiative of the Indian government to improve relationships with its neighbors. Does the project have a strategic dimension? Discuss. UPSC 2015-36 Insights on India. Com. ENERGIZING ties. Context. The Investment Board Nepal signed a Memorandum of Understanding (MOU) with India's National Hydroelectric Power Corporation (NHPC) Limited to develop the West Seti and Seti River projects, a total of 1,200 megawatts. Background. Withdrawal of China. China withdrew from the SETI project before Nepal decided to grant the project to India. Issues of resettlement and rehabilitation. In an MOU in 2012, China's Three Gorges International Corporation was assigned to develop the project. but it withdrew in 2018, citing issues of resettlement and rehabilitation. Other projects involving India: Mahakali Treaty 6,480 megawatts, Upper Karnali project 900 megawatts, Arun 3 projects 900 megawatts. Benefits of this project for India: geopolitical influence of China. It will help India minimize the Chinese influence and firm its presence in Nepal. The West Seti hydroelectric project was a major Chinese venture under the Belt and Road Initiative. Cross-border exchange. The project has the potential to enhance cross-border power exchanges between the two countries. Growing energy demand. The West Seti hydroelectric project can provide an added alternative and viable way to address power deficits. Steps needed for its success. Investment related constraints. There needs to be a careful study of investment scenarios, particularly a conducive investment environment, distribution and transmission network, and cost of resettlement and rehabilitation at the preliminary stage. Nepal's concern about electricity rates and supply from India. To address these concerns, the new MoU has already revised the percentage share of energy that Nepal will receive free of cost from the generation projects to 21.9% from 10%. Domestic demand. The MoU allows Nepal to request the NHPC to sell the power generated from the projects to the domestic market before selling the whole or part to the export market. BBIN Energy Cooperation. The project can also be extended to other regional partners under the Bangladesh Bhutan India Nepal BBIN framework for cross-border energy cooperation. Insta links. India Nepal ties, India and Nepal border dispute, West Seti Power Project. Mains links, Q. The long sustained image of India as a leader of the oppressed and marginalized nations has disappeared on account of its newfound role in the emerging global order. Elaborate. UPSC 2019. BIMSTEC. Rediscovering the Bay of Bengal. Context. The Bay of Bengal, the Bay, is experiencing an increase in geo-economic, geopolitical, and geocultural activity. 4th BIMSTEC Summit 2018. The 4th BIMSTEC Summit was held in Kathmandu, Nepal. The major focus of this year's BIMSTEC was enhancing regional connectivity and trade. The Kathmandu Declaration was adopted unanimously at BIMSTEC 2018. India at 4th BIMSTEC Summit. India announced the opening of the Center for Bay of Bengal Studies (CBS) at Nalanda University. Importance of CBS. It will offer collaborations in areas such as geoeconomics and geopolitics or insights on India. Com 37. Ecology, trade, and connectivity, maritime security and maritime law, cultural heritage, blue economy, maritime engagement. This will strengthen India's overall framework for maritime engagement. Importance of Bay of Bengal. Commerce hub. It is a major commerce hub for the Indian Ocean. Connects east to west. It creates a conduit between the east and the west in terms of trade and culture. Key sea lanes of communication. They are lifelines for global economic security. Sea lanes are crucial to the energy security that powers the economies of many countries in the region. Regional cooperation. It provides an opportunity for greater regional cooperation in the environmentally friendly exploration of marine and energy resources. Biodiversity. The bay has a biodiverse marine environment. home to many rare and endangered marine species and mangroves, which are essential to the survival of the ecology and the fishing sector. Current issues. Bay's ecosystem. It is going through an unprecedented crisis brought on by widespread environmental exploitation and geopolitical unrest. Climate change and other problems. Problems such as population growth, altered land use, excessive resource exploitation, salinization, sea level rise, and climate change are exerting significant strain on the bay's environment. Operational discharge. From small and medium feeder ships, shipping collisions, unintentional oil spills, industrial waste, pollution, non biodegradable plastic litter. The accumulation of non biodegradable plastic litter is contributing to the deterioration of the bay. Threat to mangroves. The mangrove trees that protect the shore from the fury of nature are under more threat than ever. Way forward, sustainable development of the region. For a better knowledge of challenges and strategies and for the sustainable development of the region, a more focused and interdisciplinary study is required on these issues. Example Foundation of CBS Nautical Neighbors develop a partnership and cooperate. It is essential for the maritime domain's interrelated and interdependent nature, transnational character, and cross jurisdictional engagement. Expanding cooperation in maritime safety and security. By enhancing cooperation on maritime connectivity and the ease of maritime transit, and boosting investment possibilities in the maritime connectivity sector need immediate attention. Littoral governments. They need to support and promote skill building, research, and training. Mobilize incentives and investments to manage oceanic affairs more effectively and support people as they switch to alternative lifestyles. Interlinks, BIMSTEC, bridging the bay in quest of a stronger BIMSTEC. Mains Links, Q. Project, MAUSM, is considered a unique foreign policy initiative of the Indian government to improve relationships with its neighbors. Does the project have a strategic dimension? Discuss. UPSC 2015 Treaty. Context. The 10th Review Conference of the Parties to the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons (NPT) concluded this month in New York. What is the Non-Proliferation Treaty (NPT)? The NPT is a multilateral treaty aimed at limiting the spread of nuclear weapons, including three elements: non-proliferation, disarmament, peaceful use of nuclear energy. The treaty was signed in 1968 and entered into force in 1970. The treaty does not affect the right of state parties to develop, produce, and use nuclear energy for peaceful purposes. India is one of the only 5 countries that either did not sign the NPT or signed but withdrew. NPT's success and weakness. Weakness, consensus document. Since 1970, when the NPT entered into force, only 4 of the 10 review conferences have concluded with a consensus document. Differences among members. The United States, the United Kingdom and Russia were earlier always on the same page, but now Russia has adopted a different point of view. The difference in 2022 was that it pitched Russia against the West. No discussions, no meaningful discussions or negotiations on nuclear disarmament have ever taken place in the NPT framework. Withdrawal from ABM Treaty. U.S. withdrew from the 1972 Anti-Ballistic Missile (ABM) Treaty in 2002 on the grounds that it unduly constrained its missile defense activities. US withdrawal from INF. In 2019, the US decided to quit the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces INF treaty. It had obliged both the US and Russia to get rid 38 of Insights on India. Com. Of all ground-launched missiles with a range of 500 to 5,500 kilometers. Success. Talks between the US and Russia. Arms control talks between the US and Russia did take place and succeeded in bringing collective arsenals from about 65,000 in the early 1980 to less than 12,000 warheads. Four countries have tested and developed nuclear arsenals. In the last 50 years, only four more countries have gone on to test and develop nuclear arsenals: India, Israel, North Korea, and Pakistan, despite apprehensions that by the 1980s, there would be close to 25 nuclear powers. Reagan-Gorbachev Declaration. All that the five nuclear weapon states parties to the NPT reiterated at the conference. The 1985 Reagan-Gorbachev Declaration that a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought. Nuclear modernization, 30-year nuclear modernization program, intended to provide credible deterrence against regional aggression. Russia and China. They are developing hypersonic delivery systems that evade missile defenses as well as larger missiles that do not need to travel over the Arctic. Also developing nuclear torpedoes and new cruise missiles. Developments in space and cyber domains. They are blurring the line between conventional and nuclear weapons, leading to nuclear entanglement and rendering command and control systems vulnerable. Key treaties. Note: India has not signed NPT or CTBT as it terms them as discriminatory. Insta links. NPT. Mains links. Q. The newly tri-nation partnership AUKUS is aimed at countering China's ambitions in the Indo-Pacific region. Is it going to supersede the existing partnerships in the region? Discuss the strength and impact of AUKUS in the present scenario. UPSC 2021. Q. Consider the following countries sad face UPSC 2015 1. China. 2. France. 3. India. 4. Israel. 5. Pakistan. Which among the above are nuclear weapon states is recognized by the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, commonly known as the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty (NPT)? 8, 1 and 2 only B 1, 3, 4 and 5 only C 2, 4 and 5 only D 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 ones, A. Great GB's power, Great RESPONSIBILI. Tie. Context: the 17th G20 Heads of State and Government Summit will take place in Bali. After Indonesia, India will assume the presidency of the G20 from December 2022 to November 2023. Benefits of the G20 presidency. Global agenda: India will have the opportunity to assume center stage in proposing and setting the global agenda and discourse. Global economic growth. The G20 holds a strategic role in securing global economic growth and prosperity as it represents more than 80% of the world's GDP. Leadership potential. The country's leadership potential and diplomatic foresight in organizing such a big event and in arriving at meaningful outcomes will be tested. What should India do for a successful presidency? Following Indonesia, India can take cues from Indonesia's presidency and observe how it is managing the group, which is deeply divided on various issues. Indonesia has focused on three key pillars: global health architecture, sustainable energy transition, digital transformation. This template could be useful for India in forging a comprehensive agenda. Bridging the divide. India might have to address issues that help in bridging the emerging divide in the world order. Global concern. India can find a common ground for setting its G20 agenda by addressing issues of global concern. Domestic and regional issues. It needs to promote its specific priorities related to domestic and regional issues such as economic recovery, trade and investment, at sea greater cooperation with many G20 members, such as the European Union, the UK, and Canada, thereby insights on India. COP39. Accelerating their coordination on realizing free trade agreements. Invite and engage countries from Africa and South America to ensure better and more balanced representation at the G20. Prioritized areas: technology transfer, assistance toward the green economy, greater access to trade for developing countries, addressing debt distress of countries by offering sustainable aid and loan programs, tackling food and energy prices, security for vulnerable economies. Conclusion. Workshop of meaningful actions. India has to be central in outlining key priority areas and in ensuring that the forum does not remain just a talk shop, but translates into a workshop in terms of meaningful actions and outcomes. Insta links. G20. Score. Mains links. Q. The long-sustained image of India as a leader of the oppressed and marginalized nations has disappeared on account of its newfound role in the emerging global order. Elaborate UPSC 2019. The Eastern Economic Forum and India's balancing ACT. Context. Russia hosted the 7th Eastern Economic Forum EEF Vladivostok. The forum is a platform for entrepreneurs to expand their businesses into Russia's Far East (RFE). What is the Eastern Economic Forum? It was established in 2015 to encourage foreign investments in the RFE. The EEF displays economic potential, suitable business conditions, investment opportunities in the region. Who are the major investors in the forum? China. China is the biggest investor in the region as it sees potential in promoting the Belt and Road Initiative and the Polar Sea route in the RFE. China's investments in the region account for 90% of the total investments. China is also looking to develop its Heilongjiang province, which connects with the RFE. South Korea. It has invested in shipbuilding projects, manufacturing of electrical equipment, gas liquefying plants, agricultural production, and fisheries. Japan. It has identified 8 areas of economic cooperation and pushed private businesses to invest in the development of the RFE. India. India is keen on cooperation in energy, pharmaceuticals, maritime connectivity, healthcare, tourism, the diamond industry, and the Arctic. In 2019, India also offered a $1 billion line of credit to develop infrastructure in the region. Aim of EEF, FDI, to increase the foreign direct investments in the RFE. Rich resources. To harness rich natural resources such as fish, oil, natural gas, wood, diamonds, and other minerals. Connect. The Russian government's aim of connecting Russia to the Asian trading route. A balance between the EEF and the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework (IPEF) investment in EEF. India has not shied away from investing in the Russia-initiated EEF despite the current international conditions. Acceptance to IPEF. India has given its confirmation and acceptance to three of the four pillars of the IPEF. Importance of IPEF for India. Ideal opportunity for India to act in the region. Without being part of the China led Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership or Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans Pacific Partnership. Disengage from supply chains. It will help in disengaging from supply chains that are dependent on China and will also make it a part of the global supply chain network. New sources of raw materials and other essential products. It will further reduce India's reliance on China for raw materials. Indo-Pacific Economic Framework (IPEF). It was announced in 2021 to set regional standards for cooperation and to encourage regional economies to decouple from the Chinese market by leading them to alternative supply chains. Interlinks. IPEF means links. Q. What is the significance of Indo-US deals over Indo-Russian defense deals? Discuss with reference to stability in the Indo-Pacific region. UPSC 2020-40 Insights on India. Com. UNSC Summit. A ground plan for India's reformed multilateralism. Context. The Indian External Affairs Minister's visit to the United Nations General Assembly has set the stage for an expansive range of bilateral and multilateral diplomacy by India. Theme of the 77th General Assembly: A watershed moment. Transformative solutions to interlocking challenges. India's stand on UNSC. Reformed multilateralism. India's call for the structural overhaul of the UNSC must incorporate institutional accountability, wider representation of the developing countries. Growing stakes of developing countries in the Security Council could foster trust and leadership across the world. The fault lines, unable to prevent wars. UN led multilateralism has been unable to provide strong mechanisms to prevent wars. China's rise in aggression. Through its actions in the South China Sea, the Indo-Pacific region at sea have also underscored the limitations of UN-style multilateralism. Impact of weak UN. China's growing dominance could lead it to carve its own multilateral strategy circumventing the West, economically and strategically. Isolation of Russia and Iran. The international isolation of Russia and Iran, as well as increasing the United States' Taiwan related steps. Steps taken by India for reforms in the UN. G4 Ministerial meeting of the G4 Brazil, India, Germany, and Japan. L. 69 Meeting of the Indian delegation with the L. 69 group membership spread over Asia, Africa, Latin America, Caribbean, and small island developing states. Conclusion. Because of the Russia-Ukraine war and lingering pandemic-induced restrictions, the need for the reform is likely to be felt more palpably than ever before. At a challenging time for the world order, India continues to affirm its commitment to diplomacy and the need for international cooperation. Interlinks. UNSC. UNGA. Mains links. Q. Critically examine the role of WHO in providing global health security during the COVID-19 pandemic. UPSC 2020. SCO Samarkand. Context. In the recently concluded SCO summit in the historic city of Samarkand talked about the ideal world order. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization, founded in 2001, is a Eurasian political, economic and security organization. It is the world's largest regional organization in terms of geographic scope and population, covering approximately 60% of the area of Eurasia, 40% of the world population, and more than 30% of global GDP. Position of countries during the summit. Russia, it was clearly on trial for its invasion of Ukraine. China, it was vulnerable because of the deal with Russia on Taiwan in return for a pledge to support Russia in its war with Ukraine. The U.S. stand at present, center stage. It seems to have chosen democratic countries to be at the center stage. Modernize Pakistani Air Force. The decision to modernize the Pakistani Air Force may be to preempt Pakistan from becoming a closer ally of China. India's stand. Now is not an era of war. India bluntly told Russia that this was not the time for war and that the war must stop. Diplomacy and democracy. It was the only country to demand a cessation of all hostilities and want diplomacy and democracy. Other issues discussed by India. The oil crisis looming, food scarcity, the disruption of supply chains, transit trade access on Pakistan. Pakistan should give India transit trade access by land to Afghanistan and Central Asia. Conclusion. Protecting India's interests. The Quad may well be the forum that will enable India to protect its interests in the Indo-Pacific, and the SCO may have been a dress rehearsal for what may eventually emerge. Bilateral relations. India should concentrate on bilateral relations with democratic nations to build a pole for itself in the New World Order. The ripples of Samarkand in the United Nations General Assembly. Both the US and Russia declared for the first time that they would favor an expansion of the UNSC to make it more effective. Interlinks, SCO. Positioning India in a chaotic world, UNSC reforms. Mains links, Q. Critically examine the aims and objectives of SCO. What importance does it hold for India? UPSC 2021 OR. Insights on India. COM 41. Abraham Accords have led to greater regional cooperation. Context. It has been 2 years of the Abraham Accords. It has helped not only the member nations but has also provided various benefits to India as well. The editorial article highlights the importance of the Abraham Accords. Muhammad Solomon, an Egyptian scholar, was the first to propound the idea of the Indo-Abrahamic Accord and its trans-regional implications to the west of India. The first meeting between the foreign ministers of India, Israel, the United Arab Emirates, and the United States is being widely called as a new Quad or Quad of the Middle East on the lines of the Abraham Accord. What is Abraham Accord? Brokered by the USA, Abraham Accord is a normalization agreement between UAE and Israel to establish formal diplomatic relations, later joined by Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco, and in exchange Israel would suspend its plans to annex parts of the occupied West Bank, thereby becoming the first Gulf country to establish diplomatic and economic relations with Israel. UAE becomes the third Arab nation to recognize Israel after Egypt in 1979 and Jordan 1994. Rising importance of the Middle East region for India. Energy security. All the Middle East region plays a significant role in India's economy, as it provides about two-thirds of India's total oil imports. Remittances. Millions of Indian migrants have been moved to search for jobs in the Middle Eastern countries, becoming a significant part of the total remittance received from out of the country. Strategic region. The Persian Gulf is a very important zone for India's maritime security, and the Strait of Hormuz is a strategic point. Rising FDI from this region. Saudi is planning investments in India worth $100 billion. Other countries have also shown interest in investment in India. Countering Pakistan. Pakistan is very active in Middle East. Using the platform of OIC and making connections with particular Arab countries like Turkey, Pakistan is trying to get support on the Kashmir issue and blocking India to get support in NSG. Thus, by conducting sophisticated balance of power diplomacy, India is trying to counter Pakistani influence in the Gulf region. Defense imports. Israel has been very important to India due to its technical, intelligence, and military support. Israel has been one of the major military equipment providers in India and also an important trading partner. Security challenge. Rising terrorism in this region has a direct and indirect impact on India. Significance of Abraham Accord for India. Economic cooperation. The discovery of new hydrocarbon resources in the eastern Mediterranean has renewed territorial disputes between Turkey and Greece, and the Turkish quest for regional dominance has drawn Greece and the UAE closer, thereby paving way for India's participation in the region. Regional connectivity. Abraham Accords have improved the regional connectivity between the member countries. This regional connectivity has also helped Indians. For example, the Indian diaspora in the Gulf can now fly directly from the UAE to Israel or from Israel to Bahrain. Technology cooperation. Beyond trade, there is potential for India, UAE, and Israel to collaborate in many areas, from space to defense technology. The only geopolitical entity in the region. The new Quad in the Middle East is likely to be India's only new coalition in the region. The feasibility of a non-ideological engagement with the Middle East by bridging the Arab-Israeli rift. Extended neighborhood. This engagement will open the door for extending the collaboration with other regional partners like Egypt, having much more impact in the region. Peace and stability in West Asia. Agreement opens the doors to the first big rapprochement between traditional adversaries in West Asia, Israel and the Arabs. This would open new doors for India's engagement in the region. Group formation. The Accords have helped in the formation of the IDO-UDO group. This group is established by Israel, India, the UAE, and the United States. Conclusion. The opportunities for India to the west of the subcontinent are as significant as those that have recently emerged in the east, like Quad, which has changed the way how India had transformed the way it thinks of Indo-Pacific. The notion of a greater Middle East can provide myriad opportunities to India's engagement with the extended neighborhood to the west. Insta links. IDO-UDO Summit. Mains links, Q. The opportunities that are coming India's way to the west of the subcontinent are as consequential as those that have recently emerged in the east. Discuss the statement in the context of the Abraham Accord and its significance for India. 15M42 or Insights on India. Com. GS theme. Indian economy. Competitiveness roadmap for in. Dear at 100. Context: Economic Advisory Council 2 p.m. and Institute for Competitiveness has released Roadmap for Better Growth India at 100 to enable India to become a high-income country by 2047 using sector and region-specific policies based on the 4S principle. Shared prosperity. Opportunities should be shared across every section of society. Social prosperity, i.e., economic growth, should match social development. Sustainable prosperity, i.e., economic progress, should be environmentally sustainable. Solid prosperity, economic system should be resilient to shocks. How to remember it? Take this analogy. When you move into a new colony, you share something, e.g., food or time, in order to socialize. Constant socialization makes your friendship sustainable, and in the longer term, this sustainable relation becomes solid. Challenges to India's growth and sustainability: rising inequality, low labor force participation, for women, growth has not matched job creation, jobless growth, rising geopolitical and climate change issues. Solutions suggested by the report for 4S. Structural Transformation 2.0, creating new jobs using sector-specific and region-specific initiatives, e.g. PLI for different sectors, mega food parks for different regions, convergence of programs and initiatives, including public-private participation, reduce social and institutional barriers for citizens, e.g. reducing discrimination in jobs, increasing safety for women, ease traveling experiences, e.g. women given free transport in Delhi DTC buses, enable competition in the market, e.g. greater competition in e-commerce is profitable for citizens. As per the World Bank classification of countries based on income level, for GNI per capita in current USD. What more is needed? Focus on digital aspects, where India has a comparative advantage: supply chain diversification away from China, moving to a net zero economy, and harnessing green initiatives as a source of investment and innovation. Developing skills and capabilities, improving employability, augmenting infrastructure, reducing logistics and other business costs through better center-state coordination, enhancing the quality of governance, improve data use and privacy, functioning of courts and police. Insta links: Economic growth vs development. Mains link Q. Economic growth is a precondition for inclusive growth. Do you agree? Analyze. 250 words. Prelims link Q. With reference to the Indian economy after the 1991 economic liberalization, consider the following statements. UPSC 2021. Worker productivity per worker at 2004-05 prices increased in urban areas while it decreased in rural areas. Though the percentage share of rural areas in the workforce steadily increased. 3. In rural areas, the growth in the non-farm economy increased. 4. The growth rate in rural employment decreased. Which of the statements given above are correct? 8 1 and 2 only, B 3 and 4 only, C 3 only, D 1, 2, and 4 only. Answer B. Q. Economic growth in country X will occur if UPSC 2013. A. There is technical progress in the world economy. B. There is population growth in X. C. There is capital formation.